Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Okay, how would you describe your childhood?
Well, I was born in El Paso, Texas, to my mother, Mercedes, who was a Mexican American citizen, and my father, Julian, who was a Mexican immigrant. And as for the course of my childhood, I was the youngest of five, and all five of my siblings and I, and as well as my mother, we were all physically abused by my father. And whenever my mother was pregnant with me, she worked in a boot factory, and she was exposed to many toxic chemicals, which was likely a cause of the temporal lobe epilepsy that I was diagnosed with whenever I was in 5th grade.
Looking back, are there any specific things that may have contributed to you committing these crimes?
Well, actually, whenever I was in my early teen years, I was about 12 years old or around that age, my cousin, Mike, he came back from fighting in Vietnam, and he shared with me these war stories and these pictures about him raping and decapitating multiple Vietnamese women in Vietnam. And whenever I was about 13 or so, I was at Mike's house with his wife, and they got into an argument, and Mike shot his wife in the face with a gun. And I enjoyed it to some extent. I liked seeing her die, and it was very nice.
So, what is the highest level of education that you received?
Well, I actually dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, and I never went back to school after that. It was just, that's when I dropped out.
Okay, can you give us a description of your work history?
Yes. Whenever I was a teenager, I got a job at my local Holiday Inn, and I worked as a maid. And after I quit my job at the Holiday Inn, I mainly just worked. My main source of money was just the money that I got from burglarizing homes.
So, prior to committing your murders, what were your relationships like? Were you married, or did you have any kids?
Well, I was really close with my cousin Mike. Other than that, I was mainly outcasted from just normalized society, and I did not ever have any children. However, whenever I was in prison serving my sentence, I actually married a fan of mine.
Can you explain the first time you killed?
The first time I killed, I was actually, technically, I was linked to the murder of a 79-year-old woman named Jenny Vincow, and I'm not going to say whether or not I was involved in this murder, but I can tell you that she was stabbed and her throat was slit nearly to the point of decapitation, but I don't claim any involvement in her murder. However, the first murder that I was actually convicted of was in 1985, and I attacked a girl named Maria, I believe, and she actually survived. I approached her as she was coming into her apartment, and I tried to shoot her point blank in the face, but she shielded herself with her keys, and I'm pretty sure the bullet ricocheted or something like that. But I actually was able to shoot her roommate. I think her name was Gail. And I shot Gail right in the forehead.
Okay, what was your motivation to do this?
My main motivation was probably robbery. I didn't have a job and I needed money, so I decided that the easiest way of going about finding some sort of income would be to rob people and go into their homes, and killing them was merely a satisfying side effect.
Okay, how many murders did you admit to committing?
None of them. I was convicted of 14, but I didn't do any of them.
Okay. Did you have a signature to your crime, something that you did?
Well, if you were to look back at the evidence that the police departments gathered, you would see, the occasional incorporation of pentagrams or sexual assault or stabbing, and robbing was a very common theme, but I don't think that there was enough consistency in my crimes to say that I had a specific motivation.
How were you eventually captured?
Well, you see what happened. I tried to rob this couple, and I successfully killed the man. But the woman, I didn't kill her. I simply beat her, and I tied her up and I left her in her home. And apparently, as I was leaving her home, she was able to catch a look at what I looked like and my vehicle that I was using at the time. And after she went to the police with this statement, the police sent out a mass search for my car and somebody driving it who looked like the description that the woman gave to the authorities. And one day I was driving on the interstate, and some girl, I think it was, she saw me in my car, and she managed to get a couple of digits off of my license plate. And by the time that law enforcement found my car, I had abandoned it, but on one of the mirrors in my car, there was a thumbprint, and it went through a database, and it was matched up with me. And after they matched my DNA to the car that I had been using whenever I was committing my murders, they sent out the photos of me among the general public. And then one day I was just out, doing some things, and there was this big mob of people that attacked me, and they nearly killed me, but the law enforcement got involved before they were able to actually murder me, and that is whenever I was officially apprehended.
Alright, interesting. Did you stand trial or take a plea bargain?
I stood trial.
Okay. Were you sentenced to life or given the death penalty?
I am currently on death row, and I am going to be here for quite some time, it looks like.
So, how do you feel about that?
Well, the way I see it, people like to act as if I'm just so evil when really we're all evil, and I am just a guy living in this evil world.
All right. So last question, when are you scheduled to be executed and how are they saying they're going to do it?
They actually haven't scheduled my execution, I don't think. They just have me sitting here on death row, taking up space in prison. But I am, as far as the method, I am planned to be placed in a gas chamber.
Okay. One final question, actually. What is with the symbol on your hand?
This is a pentagram, actually. It was a symbol that was seen on some of my victims in some of the crime scenes that I was accused of committing. And I am a Satanist because I just feel like Satanism is something that I just really identify with.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.